Hey, what's going on, all 499 family? It's your boy Music Nerd, and this is my reaction to the unfortunate and heartbreaking loss national championship game. But a little bit of optimism because of such a great season that it was. So let's get into it. First things first, we lost. We did everything that we think we could, and we lost. But I think that looking into it and analyzing the game, you have to be encouraged by how far Miami has come. It was only 3 years ago this team was losing to Middle Tennessee State by 2 touchdowns. So I think that and losing to Florida State by 6 touchdowns. So I think that the amazing jump and the amazing time that it has taken, I think has to be commended. Now let's get into the game. First things first, the first quarter was absolutely terrible from an offensive standpoint. We gained 9 yards in the first play and then gained 9 yards the rest of the quarter, which was a CFP record for deluge basically. So it was the lowest yards ever in a CFP national championship game. Miami, I think, played a bit timidly offensively. Defensively, they did not. They defensive. Well, I'll put it like this: the defensive line did not, and no linebackers did not. I thought they did a really good job of really getting to Mendoza's face, pressured in a way that he had not been pressured, not even by Ohio State. And Ohio State almost knocked him out the very first play. So he was running for his life a little bit. But I think Miami, I think one thing that they made a mistake, and I think Corey Hartman could go back and do it again, even with Xavier Lucas not playing the first half. I think he would have had those corners playing up a little bit more. I had a little bit more confidence in Frederick and O'Connor. And we'll get to O'Connor a little bit later. I know people are kind of flaming him online right now, but I don't think it's as bad as people think. That being said, I think they did a great job of adjusting as the half went on and challenging as the half went on. I just think that the putridness on offense, I think, just kind of led to the defense being in situations that they just could not come back from. This is a team that averages almost 50 points a game, and Miami held them to 20 offensive points. I think if I'm not mistaken, it was their second lowest total of points, their lowest yardage total, their lowest rushing yards per total by far, apparently. This was a great defensive performance again, but it just wasn't enough. The real linchpin to this game was Indiana's D line play. They dictated in a way that I did not think was possible. They kind of Miami'd us, and that was disappointing to me. I thought with the first play, I thought Miami was setting the tone, but Miami did adjust as we got to the second half, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But that the third down play, 3rd and 2, where they cut down Shamar Brown, where that had been so easy against Ole Miss. You give up the ball, you put your defense who was a bit tired on the field again. Indiana had 36 minutes of possession. Miami only had 24. That's not how Miami wants to play. That being said, Miami outgained Indiana when it came to the game. But, Miami wanted the ball more. You wanted to dictate, especially in a game like this where you have a team that doesn't really make a lot of mistakes you're playing against. You at least want to dictate the pace to them, and Miami didn't do that. Indiana did. And that was a big difference in the game. But I think the biggest difference, and I think the main difference, sorry for being a little bit repetitive here, was special teams play. That block punt in the third quarter and that missed field goal, a 10-point swing, especially when most of the second half was a 10-point game, was absolutely crucial, absolutely huge. Talk about missed field goal. That's partly on Cristobal, and that's the only merit I will give him for the game. I think they had the guys ready to play. This is the merit of the game. I'll talk about Dawson in a minute, but I don't think he came. I think he had a little bit. He was a bit jittery to begin the game, but he definitely got into it as was. Miami made a lot of great adjustments, but letting so much time off, being aggressive at first in that drive, that last drive of the second half, but not aggressive as you get into it, I think was a mistake. I think that Miami should have gotten a little bit closer. You have time. You just let too much time go off the clock there. To do a 50-yard field goal. I think he was kind of hoping for it, and then it actually, betting on it. I think he had confidence that Miami was going to stop Indiana coming out the drive. So he's like confident to say, I get this field goal and maybe we get a touchdown, maybe we could tie it. And you know what? If you get that field goal, that game is tied with that run that Mark Fletcher had. So it's like those 3 points right there. And then, you're settling in. You get the long touchdown run from Mark Fletcher. Now you get the ball back. Your defense is playing well. Your defense is getting into it now. They're stopping this team, this very, very good team. And then You get lazy on punt protect, and you know that Indiana wants to come and get a punt protect, and they played punt safe on that play too. They weren't even trying for a block, and it just killed me. Bowman, as well as he has played this year, absolutely fumbled that. Absolutely fumbled that block. It was a lack of effort. It was a lack. It was just something that is inexcusable in the national championship game. Inexcusable. And yeah, I gotta like I don't like to call players out too much, but you gotta call out that kind of effort with that, because that's a change in the game. And right there, you see it. You gift Indiana 3 mythical points and then 7 actual points, and then all of a sudden you're down 10 when it should be tied, and you should have the ball, and you should be going in and take the lead. And now you're playing catch up against a team that doesn't make mistakes. And even with that being said, Miami answered every time with a touchdown with Mark Fletcher to get it 17-14. Indiana goes on that great drive. Mendoza has that incredible fourth down play, which was also absolutely killer. You answer right away. You get Tony into the end zone, 24-21. The game's going down. Indiana's making play after play. And I know there's a couple back shoulder throws on Connor, but look, there's just that's an indefensible throw. That's been their bread and butter. Even you can do all the research on it. If it's in the right place, and it's hard to defend. The kid didn't have the best game, but he still stepped up when he needed to. Not having Damari Brown was killer in this game. Frederick not being where he needed to be was killer in this game. Those are your two best cover corners. That being said, I think O'Connor had a great playoff. I just think he didn't have the best national championship game. So I really wish people would kind of like lay off the kid. He's going to be great for us, I think, in the future. That being said, I mean, this defensive backfield is going to be killer. I mean, you got Lucas coming back, you got Brown coming back, you got Frederick coming back, you got O'Connor coming back, you got even the freshman. Jabari Brown, the one that had to step into it last week. He made some good plays. Like, this is a good defensive backfield, and it's going to be good for years to come. So Miami is definitely set there. I think it came down to it, and I thought that Indiana made the mistake that was going to get us the game. That false start, you go that 2nd and 6, and then you get those run stops. But Sainth and Torrey were absolute monsters last night. The front seven played incredible, in my opinion. Really played incredible. Moten, Bain, Messidor absolutely rocked. Frederick Mendoza shit, excuse my language. It wasn't really even close. And I know the Indiana players, they said that was the best defensive line they ever played. And that includes the team that played Ohio State's defensive line and played Iowa's and Penn State's and all this other stuff, and played Alabama's and Oregon's as being gone. So this team was rocked. And I think, the last drive, I think with everything that happened in this game, I think the only thing you could ask for is a chance. And you could look at Beck's face; he was ready for it. But I just think he got baited. I think Marion ran the wrong route. Apparently, he wasn't supposed to be a go. He was supposed to have a comeback, and apparently would have had the room. But also, too, Indiana played a great bracket coverage on it too. And it's hard to fool a 7th-year starter, but they did. That being said, Tony was open on that play. I think if he's being a bit more patient, I think Miami wins that game. I do. I really do. But at the end of the day, I'm not an Ohio State fan. I'm not a Texas A&M fan. I'm not a Notre Dame fan. I'm not a Florida State fan. The game's played on the field, and the game was played on the field on Monday night, and Miami came up short. So all kudos to Indiana. They played great. Mendoza played great. Their offense played great. Even with us holding them to season lows in points and yards per carry and everything, I think their second lowest yardage total. Miami actually outgained Indiana. For Miami, actually, I think it was their second highest point total they've given up all season. Highest yardage per play. It ended up being what I thought it was. Miami was more talented than Indiana, but Indiana outcoached Miami. And Miami made mistakes where they couldn't. And even though still had a chance to win a game. You lose a turnover battle, it's going to be hard to win. And we lost a turnover battle, unfortunately. So, Tony, Fletcher were special. 17 carries, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns to Fletcher. Tony, 10 catches, 122 yards, and a touchdown. Beck wasn't great, 19 to 32. He kind of regressed a little bit. I mean, at the same time, he did take what the defense gave him. Indiana was very, very aggressive, and I think he played better as the game went on. Shannon Dawson, I think, called a better game as the game went on. He was not good to begin the game. There was one, there was one a series where they called three straight passes. I wanted to throw my computer at the TV. I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" But he settled in. Heatherman didn't have a great start either, but I think settled in. I think you have it's not just the players who have butterflies in this game; it's the coaches as well. That being said, I do think Cristobal had him ready. That being the defense, like I said, played ready. I don't think the moment was too big. I just think Indiana's a very very good team, very well coached team, best coached team I've seen in a very long time. Signetti has one of the best staffs that you're going to ever see. I think. I mean, eventually that's going to hurt him probably, or maybe it's not. It depends on what's going to happen. That being said, it was an incredible season. Beating Ohio State, beating Texas A&M, beating Ole Miss in the Fiesta Bowl. Exercising some demons, becoming the second school in all of FBS to win all six New Year's Six bowls is a great accomplishment. Getting to the national championship game is a great accomplishment. Winning the state title is a great accomplishment. Basically lapping Florida State and Florida, even without having to win an ACC championship, is a great accomplishment. I know, and that's one thing that's next, whatever on the list. But I will take this run over an ACC championship. I'm not even gonna lie. It's important to some people. It's not important to me. Just like bowls that aren't in the college football playoff don't really matter to me because that's not the real team. That's not the team that you play with. It's not really going to be the team that you're going to play with next year. I think those type of things don't really tell you what's really going on with this team. That being said, you're about to lose a lot of firepower, but the thing is, you have a lot of firepower backing it up. Marquise Lightfoot, who absolutely destroyed a Indiana running back, put him into the shadow realm yesterday. Will kind of step into that role that Mesidor really had this year. And you still got a lot of people behind that as well with Bain and Bain and Mesidor leaving, and they are leaving. Moten leaving. Those are NFL players. Bain looks locked into at least a day one pick at best. I know his measurables are not great, but then when he played against the best competition, he showed out. So that's going to be one of those things too for him. Mesidor, I think, is a day two pick right now. That's what people are saying, but he could work himself into being a day one. He's going to be at the Reese Senior Bowl, so we'll see how that works out for him. I mean, I think he's an absolute beast. I think those are definitely the two best defensive ends, bar none, in the country, and I think they showed it because they went up against some of the best offensive lines in the entire country in the playoff. Teams that had not given up pressures were pressured a long time by this one. The left tackle for Indiana hadn't given up a sack the entire season, gave up 3 last night. That's how good these guys are. So, and Moten, of course, was incredible with run blocking and run stopping. But Sainth, I'm not so sure about his draft stock. I know that he's a good player, got good speed, and good awareness, run stops. Torre probably did a lot for his draft stock as well. But what I'm saying is that Miami's about to lose a lot from their front seven, but they're going to have to replace, and they have people in place to do it. Pablo Aguirre is not going anywhere. Pruitt is not going anywhere. Like I said, Lightfoot was a freshman this year. David Blay is going to be in. Justin Scott was a freshman who played really well this year. Who's probably going to step into that Moten role as well. So the future's still bright for Miami because Mario Cristobal, he recruits like no one else. The offensive line, you're losing a lot. Maui Noah, day one pick, bar none, I think. 6'6", 335 pounds, can run. Do this. He may not be a tackle at the next level. He may be a guard, but he's still going to be a day one pick. He's just too good, I think, to not be. There are some things he does. He tries to overpower you, I think, a little bit too much, but still, the guy's an amazing player. Cooper. Cooper's a draft pick. Brockmeyer did a lot for it. I'm not so sure about him being drafted. Markel Bell is 6'9", 370 pounds, and can run. Yeah, he's going to be a draft day pick. Would not see where else. But, you got Jackson Catwell in the well there, so you're going to see Miami kind of reload a little bit. But don't be surprised if there's a bit of a drop-off from this year to last year because these guys were bedrocks. Bain and Malinois especially, bedrocks, been sanctioned as well for this team. This was the first official kind of recruits for Cristobal, the ones that stayed, and they did the work and they pushed it. So I think also when it comes to Dawson, and I know people were kind of calling for his head last night. I think people have to realize that Miami played played three top 15 defenses, and then another that led in tackles for loss and Ole Miss, and basically basically was able to win almost every game except for the Indiana one, of course. The Texas A&M game, that's a wash because of the weather. But he gave up the season highs in yards, points, and first downs in the Ohio State one against the number one ranked defense in the nation. People thought that Miami wasn't even going to score a touchdown against them. Scored three. So, I'm sorry. They scored two and had a fumble in the 20-yard line. I forgot about Keontae Scott's pick six for a second. But Miami pretty much dictated and dominated that game. And then Ole Miss kind of got whatever they wanted, dominated the game. But, it was just a weird game when it came to it. I think Dawson is the right man for the job. We have three top 20 finishes as offenses. The number one finish just a year removed from a number one finish, and then had to reload and still got a top 20 finish with just kind of Tony, like you got Tony, Daniels, and Marion. They're good, but that's not what you had last year. You had five receivers that had 500 yards worth of receiving last year. You lost all that. Now you found a foundational and special piece in Tony, but Daniels missed a lot of time. Marion was not exactly, you didn't exactly expect him to step into that role, but yet he did. And so it's going to be interesting to see how he gets that offense to look around Tony coming back next year, and Lofton, which I expect to come back next year, and seeing what happens there. But they just got a lot of talent on this team, so it's going to be interesting to see what he does. But I'm going to bet on him because ever since he's been here in Miami's offense has been good, very good. So Heatherman, of course, was probably the hire of the offseason. I think that goes bar none. I think it was Miami played 16 games this year. They held their opponents to their yardage low or point low 13 out of the 16 games, which is just insane, including Monday night, where they held Indiana to their lowest yardage total by far in the season. So when you have to look at that and be like, how that's is eons away from last year. And I know people are like, if we could have put this offense with this defense, that's just not how it works. This team was that team. Last year's team was last year's team. One other thing I want to talk about before I go, Mark Fletcher, and this actually kind of really pisses me off. The whole thing that happened with the defensive lineman from Indiana. If people are saying that, are they just showing him throwing a punch and saying without context, let me give you some. Mike Rumph, the director of recruiting, all time Miami great, has his number retired, was on the 0-1 team. Clarify what happened. The guy was talking disparagingly about Mark Fletcher Sr. And if you're a real Miami fan, you know Mark Fletcher Sr. passed away last year right before the Florida State game. And that Mark Fletcher Jr. sends a text message to him before every game. So imagine this. You are playing the most incredible, biggest game of your life. Your biggest support, your biggest fan is gone. He's been gone, unfortunately. But you had to play on without him there. And you're thinking about him because you played your heart out. You had this great game, this incredible game, but yet you still fell short. And you're thinking about him, and then someone who is supposed to be showing class to you because they won, and it was a fair game. There was no issue or anything like that. You're going to say, hey, congratulations to this guy. And this guy goes around and says, and I don't know exactly what he said, but said something like, apparently from what the rumors going around, said that your old boy's up there crying like a little B word, basically, is what I heard was said. Now I'm not sure if that's right. Our words have done, so it could have been something a little bit more to this, but it was along those lines. And then so now tell me that you're not going to retaliate. I'll tell you something right now. If someone says that about my father, Philip Jackson Sr., and he's alive, I'm probably throwing hands. My mom too. I'll probably throw hands. When Philip and Anthony Jackson are saints, as far as I'm concerned, if you talk ill about them, you're gonna have to see these hands. I really don't care. So. And to see the reaction to it, the backlash, the racism, and it's called. I'm calling y'all out the racism to it. Y'all acting as if y'all wouldn't defend y'all parents' pride or honor either. And you expect that of a 21-year-old who just lost the biggest game of his life to have some class or whatever. I'm expecting the 23 or 24-year-old from the Indiana to have some class, and actually, when you win with the class as well. You can't expect more of that kid than you can of the other kid. So, and then after all that, still goes and waits for about 20 minutes while Mendoza does his media responsibilities and goes and congratulates him and, tells him he's proud of him and says congratulations. That's the kind of kid that he is. So my point here, and you can excuse me for, the euphemism when it comes to the parents and everything like that, but that's a touchy subject for me. You need to judge a kid on the whole picture, not just a half of it. And the problem when it comes to Miami and the way that they are perceived and the way they will always be perceived is how it always falls. I think people forget that Miami is a private school and that Miami is actually one of the best schools in the country. And so I think that they think because it says University of Miami that, well, I'll give you this. Miami is a reflection of the city and everything. It's not as dark and not as gleaming as it seems. Like, y'all want to come here when it's South Beach, but y'all don't want to stay here when it's Overtown or something like that as well. You forget about what it really is and what people really come from, and some things that they have to deal with losing their father, deal with losing people in their lives. So I mean, would y'all be treating Northwestern like this if it was called University of Chicago or University of Chirac? No. And we all know why that is, because, and don't sit there and say, oh, that's different. It's not. It's not. If you're going to hold someone to a standard, you need to make sure that you're holding yourself to that same standard. Now, if you can sit there and say that you would not have thrown hands if someone would have spoken ill about your dead parent, then you can disparage Mark Fletcher. If that's not true, then I will shut the hell up. But that's just me. All right. I am about to get out of here. Off 199th will be all new next week. We will be doing a wrap-up show. I'm not sure right now it's going to be the full crew. My brothers are going to have to kind of react on their own time to this and kind of take it in. It was tough. It was a tough one because I think us being so close, I think it's very difficult for them. But I do think we'll be able to get the FSU grads on because I do want to talk to them about FSU and what happened with it and do it like a full comprehensive kind of reaction to the whole college football season, and then check up on like the also want to check up on the predictions and seeing what happened with that and how it was. So we will be all new as soon as we can. I actually am in the middle of a hectic week and a hectic month. I am trying to finish up classes. I'm actually using a new program that I'm using for one of my classes to see how it works for this video. Hopefully you guys like it. Let me know if y'all can. And I will be talking about the future of the channel pretty soon as well. It will be a little bit different as we go into the college football offseason. As y'all know, college football, and if you're watching this religiously, college football is our biggest season. That's when I'm able to get everybody kind of together. And the offseason is pretty much me by myself when I'm running this channel. So it's probably going to go back to that a little bit. But I will give y'all an update as soon as I know what I'm going to do and after I talk to my brothers and the people who I'll do this stuff with. But thank y'all so much for tuning in. Give us a like, get a subscribe, get a share. Please, we are trying to push out the channel. And I'm doing my best to push the channel. And I think I have some couple plans, and I will be talking about that when I talk about the future of the channel. But thank y'all so much for checking me out. Thank you so much for checking us out. Off 199th is out. We will see y'all next time. Thank you so much. Love you guys. Peace.